Bro, every time I turn around, I'm staring at you. I don't understand why.
I have that effect on people, bro. It's called the Medusa effect, but like the other way, like because I'm so striking, I guess. I
Wow.
just freeze you. You know, I just lock them up.
I, I see. I see. This.
Hey
Well,
man,
yeah.
you sound like you had a good night last night. What's going
Yeah, the food was real good.
on?
That's pretty much what it was. The food was real good. But
No,
you said it. You said it. You said the checks have cleared.
man, them
The,
deposits hit, man.
the
Them deposits
game
hit,
is in
bro.
the bag.
It's in the bag, baby.
Oh,
We need all of
literally
it. We
in
need
the
all
bag.
of it. All of it. All of it.
Oh, that was just a crime. Hang
Oh
on.
well.
We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, batten down the hatches. We'd like to introduce you to the greatest combat sports show bar none. You are now in the beatdown.
You wanna get beat down?
Let us now introduce you to your host, the Badger, and
What's going on, family? Yeah, that if you haven't heard, the Badgers Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won the Super Bowl. I thought one of the funniest memes I saw was when they showed the Kansas City Chiefs plane landing here in Tampa, and they said this is the only touchdown the Chiefs got here in Tampa. Right.
Hey man, the prognostications are real. I should have bet that line. I'd have been so rich this morning. Nobody saw that coming except, the people
The
that know.
NFL. Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, they showed the main referee, and they said this is the first time a referee was the MVP of the Super Bowl. I was just like, dude, man. People keep telling
man,
me it had no effect on the game. I'm like, if you looked at the first half, it was just so obvious. Every time, I mean, Tyrann Mathieu gets a stop. Oh, pass interference defense, or lined up in the neutral zone. I'm like, what? I'm like, it just, there were so many flags in the first half. Even Boomer Esiason says it at halftime. It's like there's so much laundry on the field. It's like somebody was washing clothes. It was crazy. But
Boomer's known for being a hater, but let's make one thing very
oh,
clear
it's a
to everybody
hater.
out here.
Oh,
Listen, let's make one thing clear to everybody out here in the Fighter Shirt Nation. My charming good people, am not a Buccaneers fan. I just happen to live here. If the hometown team does well, then maybe I feel like some kind of way that affects me as a small minority business owner. Don't know how
what?
true it is, but I digress. I am a Jacksonville Jaguar fan. So, with that being said, I do have little lemons in my Kool Aid or my water this morning, and it's not for health reasons. Leonard Fournette left us with basically nothing, and coming to Tampa Bay and win the Super Bowl. So yes, I'm a little bit bitter, but I will say this: we knew this was going to happen. Once the playoffs started and we saw how the matchups fell, right? That they magically, well, not magically, but they get the Washington football team.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
looks like gold, but it's really fool's gold. Then we get New Orleans and they play the worst game they played in, I don't know, maybe 2 years. But we bought into that because they have been setting us up for the story of Drew Brees' arm is just being old and he's been so injured and retired and Jameis is nowhere in their rating. Oh, and by the way, Taysom Hill is magically hurt for this game, along with Latavius Murray, who was the second leader rusher on the team, right? But we let it go because, and then we get to the NFC Championship game against Aaron Rodgers, who we knew was the league MVP, and Devontae Adams, and this
yeah.
great chemistry they got, and how they set the league on fire, and the Bucks secondary is just maybe not quite that, but the Bucks already beat Green Bay in the regular season.
Yeah.
So, and then magically Green Bay's great Hall of Fame quarterback and their young gun head coach both magically lay eggs,
Yeah,
while Tom Brady threw three
yeah.
picks and they still win on the road at Lambeau. And we kind of start looking like, wait a minute, I've seen this movie before. I know how this is going to end, but part of me wants to say that no, we can still hope. Bro, it was already done. It was already
Yeah.
written. We just had to live it out last night. That's what it was. I'm not surprised. You're much too smart to be surprised. Let's call it what it is. Let's package this whole season up, throw it away. And like Roger Goodell said, as well as your president-elect Joe Biden, we look for Super Bowl 56 or 55, whichever one it is, next year in LA to be a packed house.
Super Bowl 56 will be next year. It was funny because LA, they didn't think the stadium was going to be ready. That's why Tampa got it this year at the last minute. Because it was scheduled to be in LA this year originally. It's going to be interesting to see just, and I'm going to say this, with all the issues with Andy Reid that he's going through, the fact that Eric Bieniemy looks like he's missed out on every NFL job this year. Again, I'm interested to see if Brady was able to end another potential dynasty like he did when he was with New England and they faced that young Seattle team. And they threw the game. I mean, they lost the game at the end of the game, which was supposed to be their second Super Bowl with their young stud quarterback Russell Wilson, and they haven't made it back since. I'm wondering if Kansas City's going to suffer the same fate, where the team breaks
bro,
up. Huh?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, finish what you were saying, bro.
Where the team breaks up at some level to where they're always competitive and considered in the hunt, but they're never actually able to challenge for another Super Bowl.
Yeah, the iffy thing about Kansas City is I think what we're starting to see is that gap begin to close a little bit, right? For the last 2 years or a year and a half at least, we've considered Kansas City to be like the runaway team in the AFC, and everybody else is just playing second fiddle. Buffalo Bills are good, and they're young, and they ain't paying nobody. The Miami Dolphins, I mean, depending on what pick they can make this offseason behind center, they are ready, and they got a young team, and they ain't paying nobody. Then you got to know Bill Belichick with a full season under his belt. Whoever is under center, New England's going to be back. The Titans aren't going anywhere because they just bring this bludgeoning style. And then your home team, the Purple People Eaters of the AFC, the Ravens, bro, with Lamar Jackson, that young core coming back, they're going to be back. So
We just need receivers.
So you're probably right, bro. There are some, and then Pittsburgh is bringing Big Ben back. I'm not sure how or why that's going to work out.
Well, they're out.
They're going to be back. The Cleveland Browns are going to be better, bro. It's a lot of pieces going on there in the AFC. That gap is shrunk now for Kansas City.
But bro, I get what you're saying, but it doesn't close that quickly. I mean, you've had Kansas City who's looked unstoppable since the Super Bowl last year because they were able to come back on teams like huge deficits in the playoffs last year. They didn't trail this year in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. They dismantled teams except when they sat Mahomes and they rested Hill, and this was a team, they were a juggernaut. Now, you've got to look at the facts when you have three starting offensive linemen out. And there were a couple other players who were out. But it's like, how does this happen coming up on the Super Bowl?
Bro, I that was the point I made about the New Orleans Saints game.
Yeah.
Now, those games weren't even competitive. You get a quarterback who's been battered and injured. That's part of the game. But we get Taysom Hill, your most important utility player, your most important player that's not Drew Brees or Alvin Kamara, and now he's out. And then the backup running back, Latavius Murray, we keep dismissing that, but bro, he plays a factor in New Orleans offense, spelling Alvin Kamara. He gets those tough yards. He's magically out. Mm-hmm. Bro, come on, man. Like, The important pieces that aren't stars are out. This really hurt the Chiefs. Look, and Tampa Bay's defenses happen to be peaking at the right time. And you got to give Todd Bowles credit for that. You also got to give Byron Leftwich credit for calling a very good game offensively. Tom Brady will get all the credit for this, but Tom Brady didn't do a whole lot. He just didn't turn the ball over. He was a supreme game manager in this play. He averaged right around 10 yards to completion. But most of those completions were six to Gronk. I don't know how many Leonard Fournette ended up with. The no risk it, no biscuit scheme that we thought we were going to see, that ended 6 weeks ago. This was Tom Brady's DNA all over this offense, bro. So for whatever it's worth, we have our thoughts, we have our ideas, but we give the Buccaneers credit, but we throw this season away and we get ready for next year.
Yeah, I never thought I would agree to that, but realistically, that's pretty much what's happening. I mean, it was a season. When you look at the record books, it's not going to have any asterisks. It's just going to be a season, and we move on. So, congratulations to a couple people I know who are really good friends of mine, who are diehard Buccaneer fans, and I congratulate them because they're as happy as they've ever been this morning. They didn't do anything stupid like go out and riot in the streets last night, like people stealing street signs on Kennedy Avenue. And it's funny
because that's so Tampa. I love it.
It's they got this site on Instagram called Real Tampa, and they show everything ratchet, and it doesn't matter what color you are. They show everything ratchet.
Let me say this about my adopted second home as well as yours. Tampa has always had like Tampa is well. Now that you married into it, I guess you kind of stuck here.
No.
So Tampa has always kind of struggled as being like the second fiddle city, and sometimes even the third fiddle city in Florida, depending on who you're talking to, for an identity. But what you're starting to see is Tampa's kind of getting this sports identity going. When they get it right. This is the second time the Buccaneers and Lightning have both reached the championship in the same season. The Rays have been on the road doing a lot more with less, and the Lightning have been the best team in all of sports for like the last decade, I think Sports Illustrated said. So Tampa's kind of trying to get this whole sports identity built around
the Lightning
in this region.
The Lightning didn't reach the finals in 2002.
Yes, they did. They won the Stanley Cup that year.
They didn't win it in 2002, bro. They won it in 2005. That was their first time in the NHL Finals.
Okay. You may be right.
But
the point I'm making is it happened in close enough proximity to where you could confuse it.
This year,
if I confused it.
It's the cabbage. That's why you confused it.
No cabbage, but it doesn't change my point. Tampa Bay's had the best hockey, the best sports franchise in all sports. Lightning have been perennial winners forever. The Buccaneers have not had a lot of success, but when they do, it's kind of a big deal because nobody really expects Tampa to do anything. They kind of come out of nowhere. And you got to acknowledge the Rays the last 5, 6, 7 years been doing a lot more or less. So Tampa's built an identity, minus football, having winning programs here. Now you got the football program catching up with Tom Brady, who may be the biggest name in the NFL. Bro, it all spells good for this area. It's giving Tampa Bay the region and the identity. It's kind of good because we know the people down south, they don't support none of their teams.
But you're right on one point. You've got to, at this point, for 2020, 2021 season, Tampa is Title Town USA because the Rays reaching the World Series, should have won it, didn't, but they got there. The Lightning clearly winning the Stanley Cup, and now you got the Bucks winning the Super Bowl. That's kind of hard to deny. That's like in the 70s when you had the Pirates winning the World Series, the Steelers winning the Super Bowl, and the Pens doing well in hockey, but I don't think they won it then. But I mean, that was as close to Title Town you could in professional, that you could have in professional sports back then as well. So you got to give the devil its due. You got to give Tampa Bay its due. Two professional teams winning a championship in the same year, as really essentially, and then a third making it to the championship in their respective sport. Hey, kudos.
Yeah, you just don't expect that to happen in Florida. You know, the two sports franchises that you wouldn't think would do well here, have been consistently good for a long time, and now the football, which is Florida, catching up, it just makes everything come full circle.
Yeah. Look, I found out who Shaq is challenging. Whose challenge Shaq answered. Shaq will be competing against Cody Rhodes.
That doesn't matter. The more important news about
What?
Shaquille O'Neal is the fact that he just came out and he will be investing in Bare Knuckle FC. We've been seeing Shaq at these events the past few months. I figured it was coming. He says the future of combat sports. He's a big name. He's a big influencer. He's put his money
This is
behind Bare
big.
Knuckle FC. Where do we see this going for Bare Knuckle FC, bro?
They'll receive good traction. Excuse me. Simply because the bare knuckle started out even with the backyard championships. Bare knuckle had a lot of traction on YouTube, bro. I mean, it was you talking like millions of hits and subscribers on YouTube when it was just people videotaping and showing these fights in bars and backyards literally. And then when it moved into arenas and it became more formal, it was still a huge groundswell of people following it when it was illegal on pretty much on YouTube and on Facebook. And it was huge. I mean, even going back to MySpace, that's when it just took off. Most people remember Kimbo Slice coming out of it. But Bare Knuckle's been around and people have been clamoring for it. And with the UFC taking its large space in the combat sports community, and your wrestling organizations holding on to what they have, and the boxing organization, Bare Knuckle gives you that. I want to say this, it's going to sound horrible, but it gives you that pure element in sports if there is one left. So they can't go anywhere but up. And even without Shaq, Bare Knuckle's getting noticed. So with his influence and his financial contribution and the inroads he'll be able to assist them to make, I see Bare Knuckle being on, if not cable, coming to a regular television network just to show what they have, not as a permanent fixture, but a card on one of those networks, probably in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, the only thing Bare Knuckle offers is Joe Schmo on the couch a dream of things to make think he has the opportunity to get up and do something. There, like I said, I like the league, I like where they're going, but that's where the relation lies, and that's why you get the kind of demographic and kind of cult following that you get with them. When you watch these Bare Knuckle guys, at least right now, you don't see any guys on there, with the exception of a couple. There's a few guys on there that, kind of look the part. But other than that, you see a lot of guys on it, you look like, hey, I think I can take that guy. It's like my neighbor next door, or maybe the guy down the street. It gives that element of, I can do it too. Whereas with boxing, MMA, even a common man understands the level of commitment and dedication that those athletes put in, because
Now,
you don't make it that far when you have to be proficient in 4 different martial arts.
Now.
You don't make it that far when you've had to be, or you've been a Golden Glove boxer since you were 10. Like, there's people understand now because that content is out there readily available to them, and it doesn't come in the package of a movie. So
but it's changed.
Bare Knuckle wins in that regard. People
It's
can that armchair quarterback, that thing is real in Bare Knuckle.
Bare Knuckle is picking up on where the UFC now, or let's see, the UFC in 2002, 2003, 2004 is where Bare Knuckle is now. The UFC, those guys look like they got off the couch and got in the cage. Even though they were athletes, they didn't look like boxers. They didn't look like people who were doing concentrations like Taekwondo or judo, or they didn't look like them. They didn't look like your athletes who were premier. Even though they hadn't reached the level of competition within the cage. There were clear divides in most weight classes back then. But most of the guys looked like the guy you sat next to at the bar. oh man, he could fight, but I could take him. I kid you not, my little brother was getting involved in some of the backyard style of MMA around that time. His was a little later on, but it was crazy because now you look at the MMA athlete, they look like finely tuned athletes for the most part, just with a bunch of tattoos, but then they look like your bare knuckle FC people do now. So I agree with that. You look like the guy on the couch could get off. What he knows he can't, but it gives him some hope. And when you look at MMA back in the day, MMA rose because it fulfilled that lust for people who they knew they couldn't box. There was no way they would ever be able to get in unless it was the tough man competition or tough woman competition. They wouldn't be able to get in and compete, and nobody looked like them who was competing at the high level. So in MMA, you had guys who looked like somebody you knew competing at a high level. They didn't look the part like they do now. Now you have the Performance Enhancement Center in Vegas. You have all these American Top Team, the Black Zillions. You've got all these different training facilities where these athletes now can go and become the best that they can possibly be physically. Back then, you had the Militich training system. Jeremy Horn had people, I think, out in Iowa. I had a good friend of mine, his little brother, Corey Hill, was on the Ultimate Fighter, and he ended up going out with Jeremy Horn to train with him. And you could see as it kept growing and maturing, how the development level of these guys were changing. So yeah, you're right. The Bare Knuckle FC does again fulfill that. Hey, he looks like somebody I know, so I can identify with that.
Yeah, and more importantly too, they in this particular fight, I want to go back because we touched on it briefly on Sunday. I want to touch on a little bit here too. Them bringing Paige Van Zandt. Look at what's going on now, right? They bring Paige Van Zandt in. They put on a hell of a card on Super Bowl weekend in a place where you could draw a live gate, draw a live crowd. Then you attach it to Shaquille O'Neal, who just came out publicly saying he's going to invest. That's a lot of impression, and that's a lot of people that's the bare knuckle brand is hitting a lot of eyes over the past 7 days, right? And Paige Van Zandt, your cash cow, right, comes and she loses a controversial decision. That says a lot, because even if this was a play by the powers that be, it makes you feel like there is a real element to this sport where the favorite or the hero will not always get the benefit of the doubt. Because you and I both know if this fight would have happened in the UFC or in boxing with some high-level promoters, that would not have been the outcome. So that kind of also helps them too. This is something I think they can play on. They may, like you said, you may be on something, bro. They may carve out another niche here because content is king and there's enough money for everybody to eat. They could stick around for a while, bro.
Yeah, I don't see him going anywhere but up. I really don't. Yeah. And there's a big difference between now and 10, 15 years ago. It's called the app.
Yep.
Your television, for the most part, is in your hand. So they keep putting content out there. People are going to start seeking it, and then their streams are going to go up.
I hear that. So since we already talked about mixed martial arts, it's that week, bruh. So we might as well get it started right now because you got me thinking about it on Sunday. So all things Burns, Usman Burns this week, because that's all that matters. What you got?
Well, listen, I'm gonna talk about Gilbert Burns today. Talk about you're very familiar with Gilbert Burns and Herbert Burns and the Green Short movement. Listen, Gilbert Burns is a very dynamic fighter. Gilbert Burns is, I'm gonna say, you can pretty much say he's a master at Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but he is an incredible wrestler. I mean, from takedowns to takedown defense, he is an incredible wrestler to where most BJJ guys are good on their back. They're good at working submissions. They're good at tying you up. They're good at frustrating you while they're on their back. That's just part of their game. Gilbert Burns is also good if you're on your back and he's working and positioning and pounding you and working for submissions, and also being able, and a lot of people don't figure this out, he's able to tie you up when he's on top as a wrestler and frustrate you and cause you to leave openings, making mistakes, trying to get to a better position and take advantage of that. Gilbert Burns is just a very good all-around grappler. But we also saw in the Tyron Woodley fight, Gilbert Burns got them spark plugs, them jumper cables. He's got good hands. So he's a tough out for anyone. Unless he's having a horrible day or he ate at the Badger's favorite Chinese restaurant, he's going to be able to come in there and take you apart if you're not on your A game. And just by the level of striking he has, and when I say striking, don't mistake, I'm also talking about striking defense. He's got good boxing, bro. For somebody who has great wrestling and great jiu-jitsu, he's got good boxing.
Yeah, speaking of my favorite Chinese restaurant, I had some Asian cuisine on Saturday, and
Not
I
the
must
cream
say,
of Sun Young guy.
listen, I had to make a crime scene in the bathroom, bro. It was terrible. I like my business out there like that, but let's just say when I was done and get in the shower, I just ain't used to all that stuff, man. That soy and all that fancy, smashy stuff they cook with. And listen, the whole
What
hibachi,
the?
the entire hibachi pageantry, I like, but bro, my guts just
Oh, I
didn't
know
agree
where
with
you
it. It was
went.
terrible.
I know
Yeah, lost a
exactly
couple
where
of
you
pounds while I was in there.
went.
Hey, but back to Gilbert Burns. Listen, that was where I wanted to go with this discussion, man. I like Gilbert Burns' jiu-jitsu because it's second to none. I like Gilbert Burns' wrestling because it may only be second to the guy he's facing on Saturday. Bro, Gilbert Burns is a pretty good striker, especially by MMA standards. But he is also athletic. That is the part that people are downplaying. Gilbert Burns is an athlete. I saw it with my own two eyes, bro, and I watched it for almost a week. I watched him train and work with his brother almost every day, getting him ready for a fight. We've exchanged ideas and conversation. These guys, the Burns brothers, are hungry, bro. They want to leave a legacy. The way they talk about where they're from and what they represent means a lot to those guys. Bro, this man can fight. He can fight in all four phases of the game. Now, I don't expect to see him throwing many kicks, but he can do that too. I'm wondering if he is going to be either overconfident or leery of Kamaru Usman. And I say that because in training, because they've trained together for a long time, there has to be familiarity between the two. And somebody knows, one or the other, and maybe the coaches that are in there that were in that gym with them in American Top Team, but somebody knows something. And there's something that one of these guys can do to each other, the other just can't stop.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that we're going to find that answer out before Saturday.
Listen.
And that's why I think we're going to learn more about Gilbert. I do this for all these fights. So it's kind of a thing now, right? We're going to learn more about Gilbert Burns in this fight than we are about Kamaru Usman.
I disagree. And I know tomorrow we're going to get into Kamaru Usman. But Yeah, I disagree. I believe there's a very strategic reason, and it was planned out why Kamaru Usman, the champion, left the gym to train. So we'll get it. We'll be able to get into that when we talk about Kamaru Usman. But it was not an accident. It was not a split decision. A snap decision. There was something very calculating about Kamaru Usman, the champion, leaving the gym to train. Because when you wear a belt, that is your gym. You've never hear about a champion who's facing someone from their own stable leaving. That's what Daniel Cormier was trying to point out, and they kept trying to gloss over it. But you don't hear a champion leaving the gym to train. That's the challenger's job at that point. If you're gonna take somebody with you, fine. But you get permission. Pretty much, it's a hierarchy there. But the champ decides, I'm going to another state to train. That made my antennas go up right there. So it's going to be a very dangerous fight for both fighters. And I believe that Gilbert Burns may be a little tentative in the beginning. And that may set him back a little, but I don't believe there's a fear factor there. And I do believe that Gilbert Burns is going to be focused, not cocky, but confident in his ability and what he knows he can do. So if you look at the roadmap, he didn't do much different to Tyron Woodley than Kamaru Usman did. He touched him up a little bit more. But Kamaru Usman roughed Woodley up. I'm gonna say physically, because he hit it with punches. He held him down. He beat him up. He out wrestled him. He did, and then Gilbert Burns followed the same philosophy. And then guess who else took the same philosophy? Cody.
Kobe Covington. Yeah.
Kobe.
Yeah, well, once the blueprint was out on T Wood, we knew how that was going to go. But I like where you're going with this. You're doing a little more psychological warfare on a Monday than I was prepared for. But you are right. I think that there are some things that play here. I didn't think about it in those contexts, but the way you explained it, it kind of makes sense. I have to give you credit on that one, bro. That was pretty smart. But man, every other day. Listen, I'm not so
brilliant
sure.
Only on Monday through Sunday. Every other day I'm not, but Monday through Sunday I am. Go ahead.
Maybe, just maybe. Look, I want to see whose territory this belongs to, right? But the reason why I said that you're gonna learn more about Gilbert Burns than you would Usman is because we've seen Usman face adversity on this stage before. We've seen Usman be the underdog on this stage before. Gilbert Burns has kind of been the favorite the last couple of big fights he's had. So now,
wait a minute,
to see him,
he wasn't the favorite in the Tyron Woodley fight.
I think he. Are you sure?
I'm sure.
I don't. Okay. All right. Well,
now,
for the sake of you wanting to disagree with me, I'm going to hope you're right on that one.
When you talk about people on the inside, people who understand the sport, people who either do it or study it, they would have given Burns the nod. But Vegas gave Woodley the nod on that one.
Way to cover your tracks. But listen, either way, I think that for the most part, bro, Gilbert Burns has never been here before. And not only has he never been here before, but now you're probably facing the one guy that you probably figured you're going to have to face at some point anyway, or that you didn't want to face. I'm pretty sure Gilbert Burns, depending on where his personality lines up, either he's the guy that wants to beat the man to be the man, or as long as it ain't my teammate, I'd rather beat up the other guys because we don't have a bond. Out. So I don't know.
He called his teammate out. I mean, it's what it is. He knows if you want that strap, and you want your name etched on that strap, and that strap will never leave your house, no matter how many times you defend it. You will always be able to look at that strap and say, I was the man on that day. You got to beat the best. And you know the best is in your gym. So there's no playing around or fooling around with this. You know that you're going to have to beat that man. When that man beat Tyron Woodley, you knew who that man was. You trained with him. You helped prepare him. You knew at that point, my goal has always been a champion in this sport. And since that is the new man, that's the man that's in my scope. Now, what I think works against Gilbert Burns is, when did he fight Tyron Woodley? Do you remember what month he fought Tyron Woodley in?
No, I don't remember the exact one.
It was either April or May.
I think it was like late spring though. Yeah, somewhere up in there, April, May.
Let's give him the benefit of. We'll give him the benefit of May. We'll give him just the benefit of May. June, July, August, September, October, November, December was 7 months, and that's when you were supposed to fight him. January, February. You've been on the shelf for 9 months waiting for this fight. This is what I think will affect his mentality, his emotional balance on this. You've been able to sit around and think about this for 9 months. Nobody wants to wait on a fight that long. That's why most fights happen 3 to 5 months out. Championship fights. You're sitting around for 9 months, bro. On the shelf, training.
I'd like to buy into that theory, but I think once the pandemic hit, and with it hitting right in the middle of what was supposed to happen, but well, not in the middle, but when it kind of reached
during the pandemic,
with him fighting during the pandemic, with the pandemic affecting the way he had to train and fight for his fight, and then having to watch Woodley face Masvidal. And then after that, he also catching COVID. I don't think him being shelved for 9 months really matters. All fighters at this point, for the most part, have been shelved for a while. Now, what I do think, and I think this is kind of where more you're leaning, is that you had Usman fresh in your mind because the training was fresh. This man's been gone from your sight for since probably before the Masvidal fight, because Burns was getting ready for his fight. And I think that they knew that had once Burns got past Woodley, that they were going to go for Usman. So the familiarity as of late may not affect it so much. Did the master give the pupil all the answers, or did he always on the back of his mind, I need to show this guy my entire tool bag because one day I may end up facing him? Where are you with that?
Bro, he knew when he beat Woodley, he knew he was going to have to face Burns at some point. You know the caliber of the men and the women in your gym. I mean, realistically, you playing football, you knew your senior year, if not your junior year, who your replacement was going to be. You knew the best person coming up behind you because you practiced with him 4 days a week. So, in the gym, it's no different. Boxers, you know which sparring partner is going to be your next competition, given the opportunity. So, MMA is no different. You train with these guys all the time. You've helped them get better. They've helped you get better. They've picked your brain as much as you will let them, and sometimes they pick more off your brain than you intend.
I like that. But it works both ways now. Mm-hmm. So if they've been knowing that at some point this is going to be a crash course, then do you feel like that maybe Usman always kind of only gave him level 6 out of 10? Because for the past plus year, you've known at some point you're going to probably see this man. And I'm sure there's been a lot of chatter in the gym, just casual, friendly banter between the two of you. Hey, one day we're going to meet up. Yeah. But in the meantime, you second fiddle to me in this gym. In the meantime, you still my scrub. That kind of little stuff. Do you think that Usman knew this and probably didn't give away all the trade secrets, or do you feel like maybe Burns was able to pick off more than Usman would like to let on?
Here's the interesting thing: when you're in the same team, you work with the same coaches. So no, Usman's not gonna give him level 7 through 10, but in training, he's gonna pick up some of those levels from the coaches because the coach's job is to make everyone in the gym better. So if I see that Usman's able to do this very proficiently, and he's able to do it profoundly well, and I know this is going to help Burns in his upcoming fight, and if I'm a coach, I'm probably going to give Burns some of this technique. So it's going to bleed over. So by the time you face Usman, Burns is going to know almost everything Usman has done up until the point Usman left the gym.
Now, here's what I think you may be leaving out. I like that theory, and that's probably a lot more truth to that than not. Here's something I think a lot of people are underscoring: the injuries, the nagging pains, where it hurts.
I wasn't even going there.
Those
I wasn't
things
even going
you
there.
pick up in the gym because y'all work not together, just casual conversation. How you doing today, man? My back killing me, bro. I had back problems like the last 4 months. Hey, how you doing today, man? My knee, man. You know, man. Yeah, I know I'm trying to stay off your knee, bro, because I know your right knee really give you problems. Yeah, man. Well, hey, man, how you doing, man? My left elbow, bro. All right, bro. Well, I'm gonna step to your left more this time, so you have to try to throw that left. We'll just work jabs this week. All those types of things.
Here's the funny
That's
thing.
what I feel like is probably going to be the key to this fight.
And
how hard can he go? You know how hard he can train, and when he can't train, and when you know all these little things. So I think that part definitely favors Burns.
It's gonna be interesting. I agree with that. It's funny because there are also some injuries you're not gonna tell somebody about. But if I'm watching you in the gym, I see them.
Yep.
Now, I may not ask you about your hip, why you can't throw a certain move from a certain angle, but I'm gonna see it. So when I get in there with you, I'm gonna test it. I'm gonna throw a kick to your hip.
And before you give him any more game, hashtag watch the pod, hashtag you heard us say it. Because now watch every other combat sports site gonna start talking about those things in regards to Kamaru Usman and how that man helped Gilbert Burns. So if you hear anybody else talk about it, you heard us here talk about it first. Hashtag watch the pod. Just because they try to steal our game.
It's gonna be interesting though, because it's gonna be such a chess match, or it may be checkers. It just depends on the level of which you need to do a deep dive in your training. Because if this is where the confidence may turn into cockiness with Gilbert Burns, because if he feels he's so familiar with Usman's habits, with Usman's injuries, with Usman's ability to do certain things based on his limitations, he may prepare as if Usman can't do it. But Usman is the consummate professional.
Yep.
You don't see his injuries when he walks into the cage. You don't know how hard it is for him to walk on a daily basis.
Yep.
Because when he comes to the cage, he comes to the cage with a level of aggression where he's ready to risk his body to take your head off. Appreciate that. And hey, my boy T.A. Williams Jr. also said, ew, to you messing up the bathroom, you nasty joker. So I was agreeing with you, T.A. This guy is just uncontrollable sometimes.
Listen, man. You got to live clean inside and then out. My innards were glowing after I got all that stuff through my system.
Keep that cleansing to yourself. Because I've seen you set off a smoke alarm. So
clear it out. But it's all part of a reset. All things start anew, right? It's like a torrential downpour, right? Sometimes you gotta wash with the old and bring in the new. Hey, one more thing too before we get up against it here. Now listen, one thing that people are also gonna underscore about this fight, Kamaru Usman, by all accounts from what we've seen his last few fights, seems to be physically stronger And all the guys he fights, he imposes that will on them. He's trained. Now, this one thing about training that you can't fool, right? Is how hard you go in training. Now, I may not show you all my skills, and I may not show you, you may not know everything, but bro, I'm gonna tell you, as someone that's in the gym training a lot, when you hit me hard, I want my lick back. When you kind of get rough with me, then I kind of get rough with you. We kind of meet there, right? I wonder if Gilbert Burns feels like he's stronger than Usman, because I know in some of those sparring sessions they done got heated. We've seen Usman impose his will on everybody he's fought. Is this finally the first fighter that we see where Usman can't do that and he gets stalemated, and now the challenger becomes the aggressor?
Yeah, he has set off a smoke alarm. Listen, he's going to have to prove that within the first round, or maybe even to the second, to Kamaru Usman. Gilbert Burns is going to have to prove, because no matter what happens in training, I got the belt, bruh. I'm the champion. I've defended this thing. Every time they say somebody's number one, even though Masvidal wasn't even close, even though they say someone's my number one contender, even though I beat the so-called baddest man on the planet at the time, I've got the belt. So this is my yard. You've never been in my yard with me. You've trained in the backyard with me, but you've never been in my yard. So first thing you got to do is show that you belong there. And that's what's going to be number one on Gilbert Burns' list, to show I belong here. I am your equal. That's why I'm here to take your belt. If I can't do that, I'm going to get pushed around and beaten down all night until either I quit or the final horn blows. So if I can't impose my will and show you, champ, that I belong here, then it's going to be a long night. So that's the first thing I got to do, is show you that I'm as strong as you or stronger than you. Show you that you can't just bully me around, that I have tools in my bag that are better or equal to the tools in your bag. So that's where that mental that's what I'm saying. It's either going to be a checkers match or a chess match. And if I'm Gilbert Burns, I'm going to play chess, and hopefully it turns into checkers. But I got to be able to start the game of chess. It can't start out as a game of checkers, because I'll lose.
Well said. When we up against it, bro, I got one combat sports topic before we get out of here. David Benavidez says he's ready to bless Edgar Berlanga as he ascends to 168. Benavidez been calling out a lot of people. Does he just need a fight, or is our boy really just ready to crush somebody? Because I think we both believe in his ability.
I think it's both.
Is Berlanga even ready for that?
No.
You said you like Berlanga. You said Berlanga was your favorite fight at 168.
I do like Berlanga, but we're going to see. I mean, I don't think he'll shy away from it.
Man, he's knocking everybody out in the first round, bro.
But he doesn't. Okay,
man.
But who's he knocking out in the first round? I give him credit for knocking people out in the first round.
They showing up. We didn't say it about Wilder, so we ain't gonna say it about Berlanga.
But that was your argument in the beginning about Berlanga. He's fighting cupcakes, man.
Hey,
he's fighting cupcakes.
Listen, man. I just want you to be a better analyst in this show, bro. I'm just challenging your
I'm always a better analyst in this show.
Old stuff. Old, bro. We ain't talking about that.
Whatever.
About the day.
Whatever, Trump.
With Wilder, and you can't do it with Berlanga. Is he ready for Benavidez? Yes or no?
No, but he will fight him. And that's why Benavidez wants him now. Because he hasn't been tested. So, of course, you want him now. Floyd Mayweather, Canelo, you want him before he gets tested at a suitable level. Because if I can beat him now, I know he's going to, either I'm going to break him or I'm going to beat him, and then he comes back later and I don't really have to deal with him for a while because I've already beaten him. So, yeah, if I'm Berlanga's crew, unless I know in my heart and in my mind, because the heart will lead you wrong. That's why so many divorces happen. If I know in my mind that my guy can beat him, I put him in there. But if I have any doubt, I give him some more people, stiffer competition to fight. I don't give him David Benavidez.
Spoken like a man left the dark side too soon, but I agree with you, bro. Berlanga's nowhere near ready. I just want to get your goat going this morning. It don't matter, and I don't think he'll be ready for a while. Berlanga has a lot to prove, and he's young. No need to risk it. But the thing is, I think Benavidez may be younger, so at some point we're gonna get that Mexican Puerto Rican clash if both of these guys remain undefeated.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room last night. Who else had to watch the Super Bowl on the Spanish simulcast?
I don't know where I was. I couldn't hear the game. I was only watching on TV, so
Yeah. If you had heard it, you would understand that Tony Romo and Jim Nantz in the first quarter, the audio went out, so they had to switch over to the Spanish simulcast for the rest of the game. And the funniest thing I heard was they were talking Spanish, and in the middle of it, they say, "No risket, no biscuit," and went right back to talking Spanish. I was like, what?
Yeah, now what does that mean if somebody doesn't understand English?
Exactly.
But, hey, lost in translation. It's cool.
Oh, so when they start pronouncing the names, they do it perfectly in English, and then they go right back to Spanish. It was hilarious, bro. I was starting to understand what they were saying towards the middle and the end of the game. It's like, oh, okay. It was cool.
Any other language, if you call a man anything other than the name, it's insulting, so they better get that right. That's the least they could do.
And when they kick a field goal, they go from bueno. I was like, this is
Bro,
great.
you are so disrespectful.
No, it was
You are so
great.
disrespectful. Hey, we love
I can't
y'all.
wait for him to yell.
Latino fighter show. We love y'all because this guy is crash. This is what he does on Monday.
Listen. We are equal opportunity offenders. So, hey, we're not prejudiced at all. We make fun of everybody. Everybody. Make fun of.
Indeed.
So it was just, I was wondering if it was just me, because our TV, it went straight to the Spanish simulcast and never came back. And nobody is addressing this on TV this morning. Nobody's talking about it. And our TV doesn't have the SAP. So I don't know. It had to be a network issue because all the commercials were in English. Halftime was in English, but the game was in Spanish.
Well, that sounds like a very Tampa thing to happen. We up against it, bro. We got.
You're right. It darn sure is a very Tampa thing to happen. We got tomorrow. Tune in to hear about Kamaru Usman and his preparation. We're going to focus on him tomorrow. Looking forward to this. And then, Wednesday, our more formal show at 11 as well, where we're going to really break down the card. And Thursday, we'll really be able to get more into the card as well. So we're giving everybody their own time. It's going to be a wonderful championship fight. I can't wait for it. I don't know if I'll prepare as much food as I did for the Super Bowl, but we're going to have some bueno. And you spelled it right. That's what I'm talking about. You got to be from Florida.
And if he's watching our show, he's a very smart guy. So I'm not surprised. Appreciate the love,
astute.
TA.
Not just smart, but astute. Yes.
Word for the day.
We have the best watching this show and commenting. So we appreciate you, T.A. Williams Jr. I don't know if you're just astute or if you're like my partner over here who's intellectually ratchet. There are levels to this thing. So
Indeed.
I made some taquitos last night and introduced my daughter to taquitos and my special light skin dip, as I call it. And she was tearing them things up. And then her mom brought dinner over to her. And by the time dinner got here, taquitos had filled in the spot. My daughter likes when I start making snacks because they're usually something she hadn't had yet, and she knows when Daddy starts scratching in the kitchen, it's gonna be good. So we didn't do the macaroni and cheese balls this time. So maybe for Saturday night, I'll do the macaroni and cheese balls, and I usually put a shrimp inside, so it usually comes out really well. Oh
All right.
wow! Oh wow! He said I can read a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to
Fundamental.
Hooked on Phonics. It
Yeah.
worked for me.
Indeed, baby. Indeed.
We appreciate you, TA. We really do. We appreciate Samantha Clark Jones for chiming in and joining us this morning. And for the other people who I see that are logged into the stream who didn't comment, we thank you as well. We appreciate everybody who takes the time out of their day to watch this show because you guys make the show. Also, comment, get with us through the week. Let us know if there's some topics you want us to cover. If something happened that we didn't notice, get with us. We can always come back on live later and do it or put it on tomorrow's non-formal show. So, to my family, to my friends, the Fight and Share Nation, from me, I give you a shout out and I thank you for joining. And I'm going to turn it over to our poet laureate, the Badger. So you see what's coming when you hear that whole title.
Hey man, appreciate the lavish introduction, but don't need for it because we getting ready to go. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat place. Where we get to be a little more ratchet, as he likes to say, man. We appreciate everybody in Fighter Nation for checking in with us. And we'll see y'all tomorrow. Hey, we out there. Hey, Tampa Bay, enjoy it. All eyes on y'all. Bitcoin, Tesla's taking Bitcoin now? Gotta get me a Tesla. We out here. Peace.